Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound podcast. I'm your host, Nadeina, head of growth at SaaS Group. Here at Acquire buying wonderful SaaS businesses to take them to the next level. And here I chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business success. And today with me is Roy, founder and CEO of AppSignal, an all-in-one monitoring product designed for developers. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, design for developers often gives me like, ooh, okay, this is going to be a challenging talk because we're going to perform grandma tasks on me. Like, uh, down, what AppSignal does for me, please.
Well, if I first share a little secret, the last time I actually coded something must have been a decade ago. So I'm definitely out of the loop when it comes to software development. So
Okay,
we're sort of in the same boat.
all right.
So what AppSignal does is we provide what's called APM, Application Performance Management tooling for web applications. So you have built this application in a language we support, and then as soon as an error pops up and one of your users encounters it, we will just let you know immediately, sending an email or a text or drop a note in Slack, however you have that set up. That's reactive, and then there's a proactive part where you can keep track of how your actual hardware performs. Is your hard disk full? Things like that. In a
Okay, okay.
nutshell. In a nutshell.
It made it a little easier. And I feel like you don't really have those questions because you're selling to developers. And I feel like when you do that, they already, in a way, when you come up to them with an offer, they already know if they need you or they want you. So yeah, maybe tell me a little bit about like the whole process, like how it works selling to developers. Maybe you have a hack for that too.
Yeah, so we're one of the lucky few where we are developers, or at least I used to be, but most of the team is, and we sell to developers. And then not only that, we're a SaaS company, but then if you look at our top 100 customers, 96 of them are SaaS as well. So our customers are really close to us, really similar to us. Um, so that also means when I think, well, I would like this approach as a customer, that usually means that our customers like a similar approach. So that's, well, it's not really cheating, but it does make it much, much easier. And then many of our competitors, they sell to CTOs or CFOs, top down. That's not how we work. We don't sell, we're a product led growth organization. So mostly developers give it a shot because they're always happy to try out new shiny stuff. And then when they like it, they will tell their managers, I tried out this thing. Uh, it would be great if we would just could continue using it and if you could enter credit card details. So usually that's like bottom up. But it's mostly because our audience is so like us that makes it relatively easy. Of course, there's lots of competition in our space. There's lots of very large ones, like the ones who've had their IPO, who've had like hundreds of millions in funding, literally. And then there's us, a bootstrap company. Um, so we're definitely not the biggest one out there, but I do like to think we make a dent in the landscape.
That's really cool. I mean, I feel like, yeah, speaking the same language as your customers really, really helps. But before we go deeper into what you just said, I wonder where, the inspiration for the product came from. And uh, let's start with your background, actually.
Yeah, so this has a, I'll try to keep it short. So in 1998, I was in high school with Thijs, one of my current co-founders, and on my 18th birthday, we said, let's start a internet business together. And we did. So I've been working with one of my co-founders for the past 26 years. I've known them like for twice as long as I know my wife. So it's also kind of a marriage. So then we started doing consulting work. So you need a website, we'll build it for you. Then we scaled that to a 10-person consultancy in around 2010. And then at some point, we were just kind of tired of needing more projects. And then we have more projects. You need a larger team to service them. And then a project ends. And then all of a sudden, you have those people waiting for work. So you need more projects and more people. And you need to keep feeding the beast. And of course, the holy grail is SaaS, because you sit on the beach and make money doing nothing. That part turned out to be not true. I haven't seen much beach in the past 11 years, but still, it's been great fun. So that's when we started looking for what can we do, and we can build something that does appointment scheduling for like nail salons. But how we're going to reach that market, or is there some product that we use that we're just not happy about? And back then, there was one large player in this space called New Relic. They were basically the only one providing something that we currently provide as well. But they had a tendency they were working towards an IPO. So they needed to burn money, which they did on sales teams, and they needed more customers. So they combined those two facts by having their sales team call developers weekly. And there's one thing that developers despise is getting phone calls. So they weren't like the cool kid, and then their product was pretty complex as well. So we figured, hey, we need something like this because we were a customer of theirs. So let's build it ourselves. Like, how hard can it be? That again turned out to be a misconception. It was very hard. But after a while, we had something, and then my co-founder Thijs just hopped on a bike, biking through Amsterdam, going to various people we knew, various businesses, and just asking, do you want to pay €1,000 upfront for a year if we have this thing ready in 2 months or 3 months, or at least have an MVP ready? Then a handful said yes. It was like, okay, if they want to put their money behind it, then maybe there is a business model here. But then later, my other co-founder, Wes, joined. We asked him to build a logo. And then he looked at our website, which we had built with Twitter Bootstrap. And he was like, oh, you need way more than a logo. Like, okay, we don't know design. He does product management, and he's a great designer as well. He joined the team, and that's been like 11 years ago. It's been crazy how time flies. Right now, we're a team of 18, various disciplines, still very small compared to some of our competitors, or most of our competitors. But that's, in a nutshell, the origin story. My
That's
background is just self-taught programming, basically.
okay. All right. Well, can it like knowing what you want to do and who you want to do it with out of high school, that's pretty impressive. When you said I was in high school in 1998. I was like, okay, hard math. I was 6 back then. I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do. So, you guys have been around for a while, and you probably saw so much stuff. I'm just trying to like remember everything that happened to the industry over the years. But the question that I always ask when there is this story of like going to potential customers and asking them if they would pay a certain amount of money when the or if the product is built, how many of them actually converted when you build it?
All of them, because we told them to pay immediately.
Okay.
Because it's so easy for people to say, that's a great idea. As soon as it's launched, I'll become a paying customer. But then in the end, putting money where their mouth is almost never happens. So in this case, we just told them, you know us, like we knew them personally from the local, like in the local developer community. Like,
Hmm.
we're good for it. You can trust us. And if not, we'll just give you back your €1,000. But just pay us this week. We'll send you an invoice this week. And then we'll have it ready in a few months.
Okay. Okay.
And
So
apparently they trust us enough to go along with that.
that's great. So your co-founder would go on a bike, come back with a bunch of money in his bag.
Sort of.
Love it. That's pretty cool. Okay, well, but now the approach now, and that's what you were talking about with how you went opposite from your competitors with a top down approach. You now are POG, and I went to the website, and you're not even asking for a credit card up front. You just give people a chance to try the product, and it I mean, I guess I know where you're coming from, right? Because it's developers who want to like play with the new tool, but also it's a bit different to what you were doing at the beginning, right? Asking for the money up front and getting your validation like this. So, why did you choose to go, no strings attached approach?
Well, first of all, because people, developers who started, don't want to ask for their manager's approval immediately. So if they just say, well, there's this new tool I want to try, can you provide the company credit card details? Managers are likely to say no because they first want to see the value. So that's a big motivator there. Also, we like to toy around with stuff ourselves. If I see something shiny new, I want to try out like this chat GTP thing before getting a subscription. Because of course we're all skeptic about like how good is it going to work. I know a lot of our people, a lot of our customers, people who are trialing AppSignal, they will trial multiple products simultaneously because they're in the market for something new. And there's some like pivotal points in the journey when they try something new. That's mostly they don't switch mid project. It's mostly when they start something new, a new application, they start a new job. That's when they start looking around, and they will oftentimes just run us alongside various competitors at the same time to see what works best for them. So it's just lowering the threshold for people to give it a try, and then it's a digital product. Like worst case, they don't convert, and we provided free service for a month.
Yeah, like I said, I guess I see where you're coming from. So it's a bit easier for developers to just start with the product. And just by the way, you're talking about all that, and the fact that you said you're still a very small team. I mean, 18 people in 11 years. It's not a very big growth. And well, I guess discipline is one of the things that you really love. But when we were talking before recording this podcast and trying to nail down the topics that we could discuss here, I really loved how you said, "Hey, we can discuss the fact that we're a no asshole company," and we're also trying to be there with saas group. So I want to ask you what it means for you. And I also went to, I think it was Glassdoor. I always do that before the podcast to just see what employees actually talk about. And there was like a super funny comment from one of your team members. It says, "You eat stroopwafels often," and correct me if I didn't pronounce it right. "Freedom at work, at testing, interesting tasks, flexible work hours, remote possible, and it feels like family." Well, tell me more about, the culture, the no asshole strategy, and how you're building this.
So there are a lot of companies out there who are assholes, who give you a hard time canceling a subscription, like cancellation form nowhere to be found. When you hit rough weather, like during the COVID crisis, yeah, they'll just tell you, well, it's rough for us to keep paying. There's people hit in Ukraine, for instance, by things going on there that have a very uncertain future that still rely on AppSignal, which may be more important than ever because building websites is our livelihood. So we often like to think, what would we expect? How would we like to be treated? So, for instance, we have this upgrade policy that says, so our pricing is request based. So basically the number of, in a nutshell, number of visitors to your web application, or number of visits, and the more visitors you have, the more you pay. And this is tiered approach. A lot of competitors, when you just exceed your limit, your allotted monthly limit, they will just charge you more, and then you'll see it on your credit card statement the next month. We don't. We have what we call a fair upgrade policy, and only when you exceed your allotted number of requests by over 10% for at least 2 out of the past 3 months, that's when we'll send you an email asking you to upgrade and give you 30 days to lower your usage. Because I know people who signed up with competitors for like a 50 euro a month subscription, and then the next month they were charged 1,000 because, well, yes, you used more, sure, but it would have been nice if you told them. And they have a lot of enterprise customers, and I see like 1,000 euros is less of a problem for them. But there's also lots of smaller companies, solo consultants, who rely on this software, and that's just it's too big of a surprise. We provide AppSignal for free for people in humanitarian crisis. So Ukraine, but also people hit by natural disasters, etc., etc. If you're a paying customer, or even if you're not, you can just email us and we'll provide you free AppSignal for however long you need it. During COVID, we have lots of people who reached out telling us, well, I basically can't pay it anymore because business is dried up. We told them, well, you can use AppSignal for free until you're back on your feet. And then a lot of customers were so happy with that. We gave them like, I know, initially 6 months free or so. A lot of them just reached out after 3 months saying, well, business has picked up again. So feel free to start charging us again and charge us for the past 3 months as well, which we didn't. And of course, that's very altruistic, but also if a customer is gone, they're gone. And then they're ready to go with any competitor. So of course, it's also important for us to keep them on board, even if it's free, because we know they will continue paying again later. So that also plays a part. Of course, it's also a business, but we just constantly think, what is the nice thing to do? How would we like to be treated? And let's treat people that way. And it goes for customers, but also internally. Mental health is important. Of course, it's beneficial to a company to have healthy employees. And of course, also, well, logically important from an employee standpoint. Um, so we're big on this unlimited vacation policy. And then you oftentimes hear people say, well, it doesn't work because people then don't take any vacation. Well, we enforce a 20-day minimum, but the average is definitely closer to or over 40 days a year. And that's fine. People have their tasks, and if you do your job, if you have like a very mentally tasking job during a day, debugging something, and you figured it out six hours in, and you're just drained from energy, it has no use sitting at your desk for another 2 hours, staring at email, hoping something happens or pretend to work. Then it's just better to just go out, go for a run, go for a bike ride, watch a movie, and come back refreshed tomorrow. It's good for them and it's good for us in the long run, I believe.
That's pretty great. I seriously enjoyed everything you just said. I feel like, in a way, like you said, altruistic, what you've been doing to your customers. But at the same time, yeah, it's just what you choose to do. We talked about this with Chris Oliver. Maybe you guys know each other from
Yeah.
Rails, yes. So yeah, and he also, I think, has the same approach, and was inspired in a way by David Hanneman Hansen, who was saying that, it's your business and you choose to be nice and you choose to do something, and you don't have to go and justify your choices to anybody. So that's a really good thing. And I guess, well, just, kind of analyzing everything you just told me, you guys are on this more sustainable kind of growth path. PLG, keeping the team lean and making sure everyone's happy. uh, but at the same time, yeah, you're right. You have enormous competitors who have raised a ton of money, and it's getting more and more competitive. So how do you, getting back to mental health and just staying kind of sane while building a business? How do you juggle all the tasks, keeping customers satisfied, making sure that you have a very engaged, high performing team, and not freak out by the fact that there are bigger guys out there who could be taking over?
Well, sometimes I do freak out. That's part of it. It comes in waves. But then I've also learned through the years, and I'm not afraid to admit, with help from my psychologist in the past, to just learn how to take a step back and do my mindfulness exercises and take some distance and see, well, this is just one sample, but I have to look at the like longer term trends. And sure, this may be a less stellar month in terms of growth, but if you look at the past two, those were like double what is average. So you have to be mindful of there's a lot of stuff that happens during the day, but in the end, we have to look at like the past 11 years. 11 years, we had €0 in revenue. Now it's millions. For years, we were not profitable. Now we are. The rule of 40, for those who don't know, the combined growth rate and profit margin that should be for like a healthy company, say over 40%. Well, for us, that's definitely the case, and more than that. So that means that it's a sustainable business, and it gives peace of mind. We have no single very large customer. So even if we have some customer churn, there's never the risk of running out of revenue next month. So that's definitely very comforting. And yeah, just stay grounded. And I often go for a walk during the day because I've been reading emails, and sometimes that's fun and sometimes it's less fun. Like, okay, I'm going to be away for an hour, taking a walk, and I'll come back after seeing some greenery. and birds and whatnot, and remember there's more than just a computer and a screen. And then think about like how we get something unstuck that's stuck at a German airport that needs to go to a conference in Canada, and try to work that out within the next few days.
Did
That's a
something
stretch for
happen
bits.
to your waffles?
So my waffles. So we sent a lot of Stroop waffles, which is Dutch caramel wafers. We've sent like over half a metric ton this year, and currently we have over 2,500 of them stuck in Germany on their way to Canada because brokerage issues, customs issues, etc., etc. But I asked my network yesterday on Twitter, asking like, who do I know in Toronto? I would be happy to accept a few boxes of stroopwafels, and I'll just drive around with a cab to collect them from your homes. And within a few hours, I had, I believe, 12 people volunteering, telling me, send me some and come pick them up when you're ready. So I
Can
guess I'll
pick
do
up a
that.
little less when you're ready.
So that's fine. I'll add some extra. But this is the perks of being like C-suite executive on an 18-person company. We have a great operations manager, Jelte, but sometimes you just need to get angry at UPS to try to get stuff moving. Um, so it's still very much small in that regard. I'm a master of all trades, trying to keep an eye on everything. And of course, the trending hashtag founder mode comes to mind. But that's very much it. But then within AppSignal, we believe that pretty much everyone on the team operates in founder mode. Despite not being founders, we have no strict hierarchy. We have no middle management. Basically, choose your own adventure within limits. But if you have a good idea and say, well, I think we should publish this on the website, I'll go write a draft. And then we have a great team who will take care of editing and SEO and whatever. But if you have a good idea, it's better to ask for forgiveness and for permission. That's very much the stance at AppSignal.
Yeah, one more thing that comes to mind, because you mentioned the waffles, and reaching out to your audience on Twitter, and the waffles are going to Rails world, right? And I feel like every time I talk to any founder who's involved in Ruby community, it's a great, first of all, a great conversation, because you guys somehow are all very nice. Second, you have
Oh,
this.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, no joke, seriously. And somehow, yeah, this is such an engaged community that, yeah, you reach out, and again, to our conversation with Chris Oliver, I asked him, like, what kind of marketing do you guys do? And he was like, yeah, you know what, you just reach out to the community, and everyone's kind of ready to try this new thing, and everyone is ready to support you and give you feedback, and those people are actually trained to tell you that you suck if you suck. So like, it's also really valuable. So tell me a little bit about you sponsoring this event, and how the community helps you grow.
Sure. So we operate in various markets. There's the Ruby on Rails market, and there's Elixir and Node.js and Python and JavaScript. But Ruby on Rails is our largest market currently. And Ruby was created by Mats, a Japanese developer, long, long, long ago. Um, and he's a very nice person. So there's this saying going around in the Rails community, has been doing that for as long as I can remember, and it says Min Swan, which is an abbreviation of Mets is nice, so we are nice. So people have basically, he's an insanely nice person. So basically, people have embodied his stance on how community works, and that people should be nice to each other. And that's an integral like core value of the community. And it goes for us, and it goes for like others as well. And it does make it very easy to talk to people, and people are happy to help you out, and we are happy to help out others as well. Like we sponsor we sponsor many conferences and events with money, and then there's some we attend, and most of them we also send stroopwafels. But there's events in like Rails Girls in Kenya, where they teach young women how to become a programmer using Ruby on Rails. Those initiatives always have a hard time finding sponsors because there's, put bluntly, not much to gain there. The African market is extremely small for us. We have some customers in South Africa, but the rest of the continent, I don't think we have any customers there. So a lot of companies then don't invest in an event like that because there's nothing to gain. But they ask for like 500 euros. I'm not asking everyone to start emailing me tomorrow asking for 500 euros, but for those hyper local initiatives that really make a difference for a local community, but also for the community at large because it just grows the Ruby on Rails community. Why would you not help that community flourish locally and globally by helping those people out? In the end, what goes around comes around. I think that's one of the most important lessons I've learned over the past decades. What goes around comes around. If you're a nice person, people will be nice to you. We don't sell stuff. Like we're going to be at RailsConf, Rails World, just like last year. And we're going Schule. Schule is like a Dutch version of shuffleboard, kind of. So it's wooden discs on a 2 meter long board, and you slide those discs, and they need to end up in pockets, and then you score points. And then the top 3 wins a year's supply of stroopwafels. Or in Ruby and AppSignal fashion, if you're already diabetic and are not looking for stroopwafels, you can also say, well, keep the stroopwafels and let's make a €250 donation to an open source project. You can choose one or the other. When I go to conferences, mostly there's booths with companies with a laptop and a recruiter, because they are there to recruit people for the team because everyone needs developers. Or there's people selling the product. We don't. We're just there to enhance the conference experience even more, knowing that in the end, because we know we're not buying then and there. They already have tooling. They have a competitor they're happy with, or maybe not, but then switching over is too much work. But we know when they start a new project 3 months from now, we want to be in the consideration set. And then I need to think, who would I want to do business with? Well, there was this guy with his stroopwafels at this conference playing this silly game, giving out, bringing 150 beach balls. Like, why? I don't know, because Wes said, let's bring beach balls. And I said, sure, I'll get them printed. We're bringing 1,000 rubber ducks. Because why? Because it's, who doesn't like rubber ducks? So it's just fun stuff. We want to be a fun company, fun to work at, and fun to be around. And I believe that in the end, people remember that and they will find us. There's a long tail. It takes time. But if I look at, we ask people, how do you know us when signing up? If I look at the number of people saying, I've met you at Rails World, like 6, 7, 8 months after the event, that's still multiple a week. Because apparently after 6 months, they were ready to try AppSignal. And that's fine. We're patient people. We can wait.
Very good. It's again, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, oh my God, we are so kind of similar in that way because I feel like you're absolutely right. It is about brand awareness and just being there and kind of showing who you are and what you're about, and you don't have to like. We had this conversation with our head of M&A recently, where he was like, "Yeah, we don't have to be known as an acquirer brand. We have to be known as, you know, the lifestyle brand for SaaS founders. Everything SaaS related can be us, and they can come to us for help, for support, for an exit, whatever." And I think what you're doing is also kind of in that realm. And I believe you that it works because, yeah, it works for us too.
Yeah, and I know that it works for you. I think what you're doing with saas.group is much more like on founder level.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about that. All right. Well, I have a couple more questions, and you already said that you're selling to SaaS companies, and like 90% of your clients are also SaaS companies. How does it change, maybe in a way, or how do you have to tweak your marketing strategy or your customer communication strategy because of that?
Yeah, so we don't actually like market using, we're saying SaaS for SaaS, even though we are. Maybe we should, but it is definitely helpful for us because SaaS companies usually, when they double their traffic, that also means double their usage, double their revenue, or whatever important metric for them. It also makes it easier to pay us more So when you talk about upgrades, it just means, well, you have a SaaS company and it doubles its number of users and it doubles its revenue, and it has to pay us like 20% more compared to before. That's an easy deal. People just often say yes immediately. And we have this thing where people say yes to an upgrade within the first week. We'll send them stroopwafels again, kind of like to thank them and also to urge them to hit that button quickly, of course. But our marketing is mostly aimed at, again, at developers. We do lots of content marketing. We have a blog, separate ones for Ruby Magic, Elixir Alchemy, JavaScript Sorcery. We have a bunch of them. There's mailing lists. And then we have guest authors who we pay to write really in-depth articles for us. So that's one of our marketing strategies. Just people then refer to those articles in Stack Overflow answers, which for us is great. That's a great long tail. People asking, like, how does this work in Ruby or Elixir? People like, well, I can explain it, but here's a link to an article AppSignal wrote with a breakdown. So that's good for us. We've seen that SEO, or at least getting found through Google, has also increased over the past few years. That's also because we have gotten better at making sure people find us and writing better copy. But still, people just go to Google and ask for what's an alternative to whatever competitor. That's when we want to show up. Then we're involved with lots of events, even if we don't attend. Like I said, we've shipped over 500 kilograms of stroopwafels this year to over 25 events globally. Just planting that seed, and then there's like this meme going on. There's lots of people who go to many conferences, and they're just keeping this thread on Twitter or X, showing a picture of their stroopwafel, and then I'm now at event X, and they have this whole thread of stroopwafel pictures, which is their like red thread through their journey of visiting all those conferences, which of course is gold for us. Like we don't have to do anything and just except for being loved, I guess. So marketing is mostly content marketing, event marketing, sponsorships, and just getting found through Google. Like it's totally PLG. So there's no sales whatsoever. Of course, we have a great customer success team who will reach out to people during the trial, but people just start a trial and then sometimes we see, oh, all of a sudden that's a huge one. Because even very large organizations will just start a trial because it's free and it's unlimited during your trial period anyway. So even if they would end up on like a €2,000 a month plan, it's fine. Like it's free for them during the trial anyway. If they want a longer trial, no problem. And then we will coach them, of course, asking them, do you want to set up a call? Maybe we can do a demo, but only after they've started the trial themselves. And we were very, very lucky in that regard.
That makes sense. Thank you. Well, we have a couple of events coming up. Um, just about 100 people. We love waffles. Just throwing it out there.
Sure. Well, send me your address and we're happy to send them.
I had to do this. All right, just just two more questions. The usuals on the podcast, and the first one is, of course, you've been in it for a long time, ups and downs. Like you said, what was the biggest win and the biggest failure so far? Maybe not the failure, the learning.
I think the biggest win, well, there's lots of wins. And every time it's like this is the biggest win, but then the next thing happens a few years later, which is the biggest win. But very recently, there's this, every 2 years, there is a Rails developer survey where they ask the community, what tools do you use? And there's lots of questions. And one of them is, what tool do you use for error tracking? And the results for 2024 have not been published yet, but they have asked me for a quote, so I know the outcome, because we're on spot 4 right now. So 2016, we're at spot 11. Now we're in spot 4. The 3 above us combined have received $600 million in funding. The one below us has received 18.5 million in funding. And being in 4th place, beating like market adoption of a well-funded company, while we are a bootstrap company ourselves, that's been a big win for me personally. We're definitely, I think we're the biggest of the small ones. And I also don't think we can compete with some of the ones that have like 1,800 people on staff. and there are hundreds of millions in the bank. We're not competing with those, and that's totally fine. They have their enterprise market, not for us. But the fact that we're in the top 5, in between those big ones, that's a big win for me.
That's a good one. What about a mistake or a learning?
But we've had those too. I remember 2 instances long ago, fortunately, where we just deleted a customer's account entirely. All their settings, all their data, and we're talking about a few years of historic data, all gone, non-recoverable. That was painful, but then again, it's a blessing to be in the developer market, because one of them immediately said, "Oh, I remember deleting a production database a few years ago, so I know how you feel." Of course, we're not happy with this, uh, but knowing how this feels, I think you've punished yourself enough already. So we'll just start again. And of course, we gave them free service for a year because you have to make up. Uh, but they were so accepting. It's like, okay, yes. And I know you've probably been there. That was very helpful. And I know another one, a Canada-based, Toronto-based customer. Years prior to that, we deleted the data, and of course, they were not happy, and they wanted to hop on a call to discuss. Totally valid. So I immediately looked for a local cupcake shop in Canada, gave them a call, and asked them to deliver 2 dozen cupcakes before the call. And when we had the call, those cupcakes were like on their conference table, and I was in Amsterdam taking the call, and it definitely cleared the air a bit. So we just like to be quirky and see how we can diffuse situations.
You like your desserts. Developers are always
Oh
very
yeah,
forgiving after
I know we
a
once
few things
sponsored
we do.
Medicine Ruby and we were introduced as the official diabetes sponsor of the conference.
Oh no.
Not sure whether that's a good thing, but I can imagine where people are coming from.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Now we have better processes in place, by the way. We have not deleted any customer data in the past 7 years.
Well, let's add it to the wins.
See?
All right. Well, the last question is about a hack. And it can be, again, it can be anything. It can be, as you mentioned, mental health and making sure everyone's on the team is healthy and happy. It can be anything business related, something that works magic for you.
We've learned, and we've once joked about doing this on purpose, but we haven't. When stuff breaks during a trial, that's great for us. When people have issues installing, of course, we're always aiming for the happy path, but we run into issues, that's where you get to shine, because then you get to fix the issue. People will send us an email saying, I'm running into this issue. And then quickly, usually well within the hour, we will send a reply with actual helpful information. Like we don't have like first line and second line support. We have great support engineers who just can tackle any technical problem. And then we could just help them fix that. And if it doesn't work, we'll tell them, hey, do you have time to hop on a call in 15 minutes? So when stuff breaks, that's been our time to shine. And we have said maybe we should like randomly like break stuff once every 10 trials. Of course, we never did that. But yeah, when stuff breaks, that's when you have the ability to let people know like how good you are in solving problems. And that's better than having a flawless experience. And then we run into a problem 3 months later when you're a paying customer. And then finding out it takes 48 hours for support to get back to you. So this reinforces people's belief that you're just doing a good job, basically.
Interesting. I don't think I've heard this one ever on the podcast, but it's certainly, yeah, you're right. It's certainly better to have it during trial than when they're with you for a while. Oh, right. Well, thank you for sharing it. And thank you for sharing the story. I mean, I had a blast, honestly. I feel like what you're building and kind of the culture behind it is really awesome. But yeah, so far, let's do it again sometime.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the kind words and thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Anytime. Thank you. And take care.